Today, I'm going to be talking about ink blending because I know a lot of people struggle to get good results with this. And we're going to be making some cards, so stick around for those. For me, the game changer was the tools that I was using. And the cardstock can also play a big part as well. If you are not getting good results, start with the tools that you're using. And for me, I get the best results with the New blending tools, in particular the large brush. I just could not get an even blending on a background or on a large surface, and this was key for me. I know a lot of people have really good luck using the small brushes or the handle brushes. It's going to depend on what you like and what your preference is. But these tips are going to help no matter what brush or what style of ink blending you're doing. Alright, so I don't own a brush for every ink. I don't think you need to. I actually do keep one for each ink family. So typically I will have 4 blending brushes that will cover most of my ink blending needs. I will clean them simply by rubbing them on some paper towel. I do not wash my brushes, I never have, but if you need to, be aware that you can. You don't want to mix dye inks and pigment inks on the same brushes, and same goes to say for the distress inks and the oxide inks. So to get good results, start by cleaning your brush, tapping it or wiping it onto your ink pad. I typically will use dye inks, and then tap the brush onto the surface beside your cardstock first. We're going to be working on white cardstock here first and changing the color of the whole background. Since I've moved across to these brushes, I can pretty much blend on any cardstock now, but I used to find that using Bristol Smooth cardstock, I always got good results, so you could always try that. And Distress inks, their formula is perfect for blending techniques. Make sure that you choose colors that are going to blend well together. So that means when where the two colors meet, I want to overlap those colors and kind of make almost a rainbow or another color, like a third color between the two. And to do that, I will actually come back with the first color again and go back over and reblend over that invisible line where the two colors meet. So I've taken it a step further today, and I've actually added it's almost like a debossed image here. It's a cover plate with a pattern through it. So you could do this with any cover plate. You could even use a cover plate that's a die, like a cutting die, but use it with a rubber mat, and that's going to give you an embossed impression. And then by coming back over with a slightly darker ink over top of each of those blended areas, it just brings out that pattern and takes that blended background to another level. So very simple to do. My second technique today is to add ink blending to a die cut word. Now there's 2 ways that you can do this. Today I've actually die cut the word first out of some white cardstock and left it in place, and then I'm using my blending tools to add the color over top, kind of starting from the brightest pink at the top and ending up with the brightest orange at the bottom. I am using a smaller brush here because obviously the surface area is smaller, and that's just going to give me more detail, the ability to add more detail than using, like, say, the large brush. So when you are looking for brushes or using brushes, it does pay to have kind of a mixture of small and large ones, and you'll see soon I've got some even smaller ones coming up. The other way to do this would be to blend on the cardstock first and then die cut the word out. I just find with an intricate die cut like this, I know exactly where I needed to put the ink. Alright, so this technique, we're going to be using stencils with ink blending, and there are some amazing combinations of stamps and stencils. This is actually a Better Press image or plate, a whole cover plate almost. It covers the whole A2 surface of a card, and it has these coordinating stencils. And they're brilliant because you can add each colour independently very easily. For this first layer of the flowers, I'm actually using my big blending brush because I find I can get a lighter coverage. If I want deeper coverage, I will use a smaller brush, and you'll see that in a moment. But first I want to show you that you can add shading with ink blending. And this is one of those very small brushes I was telling you about. And I've added some darker ink. So this is a brighter pink, and I'm only adding it to the center of the flowers. It looks a little bit messy, but like I said, as the dye ink dries, it will even out as it dyes into the paper. And I did the same technique throughout this whole stenciling process, where I added a lighter ink for the base color and then just used a small blending brush to add some darker ink. And I typically would do it like in the center of a flower or at the base of a petal or the leaves to add that dimension. Now for all of us cheats out there, if you don't want to color your own cardstock with ink, you can start with colored cardstock. This time I have die cut some leaves out of two different kinds of cardstock, a lighter and a darker version, and then I'm adding some depth or just some variation to the colors of these leaves using ink blending. I've used a small, like a mini ink blending tool, as well as a really detailed blending brush here. There are many different versions of ink blending brushes on the market, and you can buy them singly. So if you're not sure if it's something that you feel like you could use or if it's going to work for you, I would recommend just getting one and seeing how you go, because they clean so easily on a piece of paper towel. Then you can just give it a try and see what works for you. I'm going to take it a step further here and create a really quick background using some colored cardstock. I've chosen some white pigment ink because I want to be able to see it on the paper, and I know that the pigment ink will be opaque. It doesn't dye into the paper, but I could have easily created a tone-on-tone background using some light blue ink with dye ink. That would have looked really pretty too. I've started using a sticky grid mat to hold my stencils in place while I'm stenciling. I've also got a little bit of the media grip mat. That's that piece of grey that you can see on the side that holds my ink in place as I'm tapping against it. There are so many different kinds of options and tools that can help you with your ink blending. There is magnetic mats, there's sticky grid mats, and there's even wooden brackets that you can sit your ink pads into so that they don't move around when you're tapping them with blending tools. But you don't need any of that. You can simply start ink blending with the cardstock that you have, with the inks that you have, and just a couple of simple blending tools. All right, like I said, we're going to create some cards now, and I thought I'd start with a full A2 shaker card here, and I've added some sequins as well as the birthday sentiment inside the shaker. I thought that'd be a bit of fun. And then I just used some liquid glue to adhere a little sentiment on the front of the card. I kept it very clean and simple. And you can still see all that beautiful blending and the pattern from the cover plate. The second card I decided to keep very simple as well because it's such a beautiful pattern. I didn't want to lose that, so I adhered that to the front of an A2 card and then used a large sentiment die cut and layered it up onto some black cardstock. So I did the shadow die and I actually inlaid that onto the front of the card as well. I did come in with a couple of jewels because they always look pretty. And I think that you can really see the difference in the images because of that extra bit of shading on the flowers and the leaves. I adhered the background to the front of an A2 card, and then I'm creating a wreath using all of my leaf die cuts. I didn't make it too complicated. I really just eyeballed it. These just actually fit in perfectly. I popped up a little die cut bird as well as a sentiment speech bubble. And of course had to add some berries. It's kind of more of a spring wreath, this one, I think. Have you ventured into the land of ink blending yet, or is it something that you still avoid? It really is not a difficult technique, and there's so many different ways that you can ink blend. You can create your own backgrounds. You can add some dimension to layered floral stencils, and you can also create some stenciled backgrounds and add some shading to some die cuts or even to stamped images. Let me know in the comments below if you have a favorite card today and if you're going to try these techniques. Click on the like button if you enjoyed today's video and subscribe if you haven't already. And I have a couple more ink blending videos for you, and I look forward to seeing you there. Till next time, happy paper crafting. Bye.